call this meeting to order and ask for the roll to be called, please.
Okay. Goss,
Here.
Patterson, Thorsland,
Here.
Dillard Myers,
Here.
Eisenman, Jody. She's there.
Sorry, it gave me the blue button and not the microphone like I did last time. Sorry.
Furtado
Here.
and Esri.
Here. Thank you.
Chair Esri, I
Yes.
just got a text. Oh, there he is.
There's Kyle coming. Okay, we'll give him just a second here. Thanks, Eric. And he did just show up. We'll give him a second to.
Hello.
There he is. Hello, Kyle.
How you doing?
We just taking roll. Go ahead, Mary.
Patterson,
Here.
Okay. Thank you. We do have a quorum with all members present. Move on then to item 3, approval of agenda and addendum. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Goss,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Thorsland. Any discussion on that? I'll just rely on people to unmute themselves or wave a hand or something if they have an issue that they can't get unmuted quick enough. Try and keep an eye on everybody. Okay, seeing no discussion on that, all in favor, please say aye or raise your.
Aye.
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 Okay, Kyle, saw your hand raised. I'm going to say all and ask for nays. Any nays? Hearing and seeing none, we'll say that that's approved. We'll then move on to item 4, approval of minutes from February 6th, 2020. Is there a motion to approve?
Move. I'll move.
Moved by Ms. Furtado, seconded by Mr. Goss. Discussion, corrections, additions on those. Seeing none, all in favor. Oh,
Sharon,
Mr.
I had a question.
Go ahead, Geraldo.
For the purpose of attendance, you just marked me as present, being present at the meeting, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks, Geraldo. Not a problem. Okay, back to the minutes. Seeing no, I guess right here, I'll just ask, do we want to use the raise hand feature on Zoom, or do we want to just say aye, unmute ourselves and say aye? What's the preferred for taking votes tonight?
I think we're small enough until a roll call vote's necessary to just say aye.
Okay. Does everyone agree with that?
Yeah.
Shake. Okay. Okay. So on approval of the minutes, is there for all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Okay. Thank you. It's approved. Public participation. I'm not seeing anyone online. There's definitely no one here for public participation.
Looks like Brad Pastelacqua's on. I assume that's
is that Brad Pastelacqua? Brad, is that you? And if so, do you want to say anything?
Brad's muted.
Yeah. Okay, well, not hearing anything from him, so we'll move on then, past public participation. Move on then to item 6, communications. Are there any communications from the members or staff? Oh, go ahead, Eric.
Well, just want to say, Andy, thank you. Everything sounds really good. I know that it's a lot of work and it's appreciated.
Yep, thank you. Anything else? Okay, we will close communications then and move on to item 7, new business for information only. Notice of public review period for the Champaign County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan preliminary draft. Mr. Hall. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. That's right. Ms. Monty, I'm sorry. Do you want to
Hi, can
fill
you
us
hear
in on
me?
that, please? Yes.
Yeah, this
hear
is
you.
a notice to let people who are interested have an opportunity to provide input to review a preliminary version of the update while there's still time to use their input. And it's required by the process to allow this public review period, even though it's not a final draft, which it will be shortly. So yeah, this is opening up for public review on Monday, May 11th. Eluc will probably see this come back maybe in June, but possibly in August.
Okay, here we go. Thank you, Ms. Monty. Is there any questions from board members, committee members? Questions, comments? Seeing none, we will then move on to, and thank you again, Ms. Monty. We will move on to 7B, update on prosecution of enforcement for dangerous structures. Mr. Hall.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. We do these updates when we have a proposed demolition. The shaded cells in the table show the new properties we've added to our dangerous structures list. The last property at 202 3rd Street in Foosland is a property that in the next item you can see photos of. It is a dangerous structure. It's open. The owners have agreed to convey it to the county. That's another agenda item. And so this is just an update so that you see this is one of about a half a dozen additional dangerous structures we've added to our list. It is arguably probably the most dilapidated structure, and it's the one property where we have a willing owner who has in fact already signed the deed over if the county wants to accept it. I know the county board is going to have budget problems this year and for the foreseeable future, well, assumed. We believe we're going to get approved for an extension to the app Abandoned Properties Program grant. And the intent here is to get this, if the county board wants us to do it, we will do our best to get this structure demolished in July so that we can get it hopefully reimbursed by the app grant by the end of August. The deadlines are tight. I can't make any promises. But if nothing else, the county board might consider accepting the property, and then we could actually get it closed up, and that would make it somewhat more safe. It really needs to be demolished. It is very unlikely anyone would ever try to salvage this building. And we had this, slim chance to get this reimbursed by the state through the app grant. Those are other items on the agenda. This is just an update, but, background to this item.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Mr. Goss.
John, have we done any sort of environmental review on this property before we accept it?
The only environmental review we've done is we know there is cement asbestos siding, but that should be easy enough to deal with. That would have to be removed separately. It can't be done just tearing the building down. It's the only thing I'm aware of. frankly, it would be unsafe to go inside the building at this point. Any flooring shouldn't be a problem. So that's all the environmental review we've done. Are there some things that you had concerns about otherwise?
Well, the only thing I would, yeah, I guess I'm on. The only thing I was concerned about in some of those rural villages was maybe a fuel oil buried tank. But that would be my own, if there's no visual evidence on the outside, I mean, I would agree that I don't think it's clearly not safe to walk in. So if we don't see a buried tank on the outside, certainly we can mitigate it on the inside.
Actually, Mr. Goss, we can check with the owner about that. They're very willing to work with us. That's a good idea to ask them about a fuel oil tank. And if it's there, we should call that out as part of the bid package. So,
Yeah. I just, some of those houses in those rural towns like that, I mean, could have been coal, could have been fuel oil. That's just my concern.
we'll
And
check
I
into
wouldn't
that.
want to accept it as a county if we've got a buried tank that could have leaked.
Hopefully we can find out about that by the county board meeting.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That would be very helpful. Is the mitigation of the siding part of the demo bid, would that be in it, or is that a separate bid?
We started working on the invitation to bid. We want that broken out as a separate item, just so we know that all the bidders are looking at that seriously. It would be part of the total bid, but we want to break it out so we know that they've given it proper consideration.
And you think if we're expeditious enough that we'll get in within the window for this possible grant to help pay for this?
We have not heard anything back from IDA from our request for extension. We may not hear back from IDA until after May because the original deadline was the end of May. But if we get that extension, there's a very good chance we can get this done and get it reimbursed.
Thank you.
Further discussion on the enforcement of dangerous structures. Seeing none, we will move on to new business items to be approved by Eluc. We've already kind of discussed this, which is fine. We have A, authorization to proceed with an invitation to bid for demolition and removal of garbage and debris for property located at 202 3rd Street, Foosland, pursuant to enforcement case ZN-20-30/01, subject to county board acceptance of the property deed and a budget amendment on the COW agenda for May 12th, 2020. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Thorsland, seconded by Mr. Goss. Okay, Mr. Hall, do you have anything else you want to add right now or before we start discussing it more?
No, I've got a couple items I need to follow up on by the county board meeting, and I have no other questions right now.
Further discussion by the committee. Mr. Goss.
Yeah, I am concerned. I mean, if we don't get this extended, the $30,000, we're going to need to be scrapping for pennies everywhere we can find it. If we're gonna squeeze this in on the grant, that's great. I'm concerned if we don't. I mean, we're spending $30,000 that honestly I don't think we have. So, it'd be nice to know from as soon as we can know whether this is going to go. John, is there a way for us to approve this conditionally?
Actually, you could add a third condition And that would be, it's a reasonable condition, subject to an approval for the extension of the Abandoned Properties Program grant. And if we don't get that extension, we wouldn't move ahead.
Yeah,
I
I
am-
would be amicable with that.
I'd be
Go
fine
ahead,
with it.
Stephanie. Yeah, go
but
ahead,
it seems-
Stephanie.
It seems like from the memo that we're probably going to get it because of tax foreclosure anyway. So, I mean, and do you think we would be able to sell it? You know what I mean? In the condition that it's in like a tax sale. So it sounds like to me, like we're going to end up with it regardless. So we might as well just take it now.
Well, it will end up in the possession of the county trustee. It's
Okay.
already been through a tax sale once,
Yeah.
and they filed an sale in error because the structure is so dilapidated. But that's not the same thing as having the county board accept the deed.
Okay.
If the county board accepts the deed, it is really the county board's problem.
Gotcha. Okay.
Whereas if it just sits at the trustee, that's not a good thing, but it's not like having a damaged property with the county board's name on it.
Okay.
Mr. Goss, would you like to, I guess how would you do it? Make a
Yeah.
motion to add another clause, another subject to the.
Yeah, I would move that we add it as a condition of this to only proceed with the demolition after approval from the grant. And I don't have IDH or IHDA app grant.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Goss. Is there a second to that, to add that?
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Ms. Eisenman. Discussion on the addition of the condition. Seeing none, this is just voting on the addition. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Stephanie, Jody,
Aye.
Mr. Thorsland, Mr. Patterson.
Aye.
Okay, and Connie too. Okay. To make it official, all opposed, please say nay. Seeing and hearing none, we'll say the added condition passed. So we are now back to the original motion with the addition. Just ask one more time, is there any further discussion on it? And again, this is for the bid to demolish with now 3 conditions attached before we would proceed with the actual demolition. Okay, seeing and hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay. Okay. I'm going to say that passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we are now on to 9. New business items to receive and place on file by Eluc committee to allow a review period until June 4th, 2020. We have A, zoning case 97-AT-20. Part A, amend the Champaign County zoning ordinance to add definitions for the following types of adult use cannabis businesses: dispensing organization, infuser organization, processing organization. Processing is in there twice. Transporting organization, craft grower, and cultivation center. And Part B, amend the Champaign County zoning ordinance to add requirements for adult cannabis businesses only within 1.5 miles of a home rule municipality with more than 20,000 population. Is there such a motion? Moved by Ms. Eisenman. Is there a second? Moved by Mr. Goss, seconded by Mr. Goss. Okay, discussion on this. Mr. Hall, do you want to speak, just add anything first?
This is the pretty simple amendment. It would only allow these uses within 1.5 miles of Champaign and Urbana. This goes back to the discussion in December at the county board. And I guess that's all I have at this point on this item.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Goss. Saw your
Yeah,
hand first.
am I to understand this? We're just putting this stuff out for public review for 30 days?
Well, this has been at a public hearing by the zoning board. They've made a recommendation. The recommendation comes back to Eluc, and the protocol is to sit here for a month, waiting for comments from any municipalities or anyone else.
Okay, that's what I was asking. So thank you.
Further discussion.
John,
Oh, go ahead, Eric. Yeah.
if you could remind us of the vote at ZBA for this one and for that matter for 973 as well.
972 was, I'm getting a real strong echo here.
Yeah.
972 was voted 4-1 to recommend denial. So the ZBA did not recommend approval for this case. On the same vote, they recommended approval of the other case.
Thank you. So just to clarify Jim's point, all we're doing when we vote for this is to put it on file for 30 days.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Jody.
John, could you just it gets real like with on the zoning case 973 AT20 part C. Can you just break that down simply, all of the accepts and within home rules, and just go over that really fast for me?
Okay. The only way that 973 differs from this case is it would allow cultivation centers, craft growers, and transports out in the rural area, but it wouldn't allow them within 1.5 miles of any non-home rural municipality. It wouldn't allow them within 1.5 miles of the village of Rantoul, which is a home rural municipality with less than 20,000 population. And it also wouldn't allow them within 1.5 miles of any residential district, such as Penfield, Seymour, Foosland, Dewey, Flatville, Sellers, down in the southwestern part of the county, Grange and Parkville, Mayview, places like that. So those would all have 1.5 mile buffer around them.
And what about Mahomet?
Mahomet is a non-home rural municipality, and neither one of these amendments will allow anything within 1.5 miles of Mahomet, St. Joe, Sidney, Philo, Tolono, Sedoris, Fisher, all of the smaller villages. They all get 1.5 mile buffer.
There's a pretty good there's a pretty good map that shows that. I'm not sure what page, 43, 42, and 43 show the little buffers around all the cities or all the little towns. It looks like.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and I just want to clarify. So looking at that on page, oh gosh, where did you find the page number, Stephanie? I don't see it, but
There's no page number, but you could like work backwards from 45.
So like look at St. Joe. It has the navy blue and then it has a little black line. So inside the navy blue, it couldn't be there. Is that correct? Or black? I don't know what color you would call it.
That's correct. You're right.
Okay. All right.
Further discussion, questions? Don't want to miss anybody.
I do.
Go ahead, Jody.
I do have one more question. A fear of mine, which has always been, and I've always talked openly about it, is how to patrol things out in these rural communities. And so if a farmer has cannabis growing in their field, is there a way that they're going to safeguard that? Because I know when I was in high school, kids were going out in fields and getting it where they knew it was growing, let alone having acres of it growing. Like, is there a way that it's going to be secure, or like, is there any extra measures taken to make sure that people aren't coming out and plucking it from the fields and doing things in that fashion? Since we've already talked about the ability to patrol it is hard.
Any growers would be regulated by the state, Jody, and would have to have a secure facility that the state would approve. So it's not going to be just grown out actually in an open field. It would be a enclosed building. I imagine it would largely be like the present growers for the medical and recreational, or the medical, I should say. I think it's largely, if not exactly like that, and that they have to have a security system. I think the state police have to be able to access that security system whenever they want to look at it. I'm sure it would have requirements of probably so much backup video in case something did happen. They could at least go back so much in time to, review that footage. So it's something that wouldn't be just it would be, granted, anything can happen. I mean, you can't say that someone couldn't break in and do something, but it would have to be as secure as what the state is requiring.
So it's inside, it's contained, it's not.
Yes, yeah. It won't be grown out in a field out in the open with just a chain link fence around it or something. No, it'll be inside, completely controlled with grow lights and their own watering system. And I don't know if they use actual soil or if they use some other kind of a media to grow the plants in or what. I don't know, but it'd be all contained inside a building. And I think what it even has to maybe control the odor, doesn't it? It seems like I kind of almost remember reading that somewhere, that there has to be like a ventilation system that somehow filters the odor out.
Only within 1.5 miles of Urbana.
Oh, okay. That was where that was coming from.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I have one more question, John.
Sure.
Have we been contacted by any growers that are interested in coming anywhere yet?
We have been contacted by one craft grower.
Okay. And where were they wanting?
Well, they're wanting it in an area where it wouldn't be allowed. They're wanting it less than 1.5 miles from the village of Fisher.
Okay.
And I've explained that to them, that that's a problem. But hope grows eternal when you want to be a craft grower.
Okay.
Mr. Thorsland, go ahead, Eric.
John, have you had any transporters reach out to the office?
Yes, we had a transporter, and that's what made us aware that we had overlooked the I-1 and I-2 zoning districts. Again, this is supposed to be like our current ordinance. Our current ordinance allows truck terminals in I-1 and I-2. And so that's one change from what the ZBA reviewed. We added that in. It's a very small change. It's consistent with our ordinance. So we do have one company wanting to do that in, I think it's some I-2 zoning near the city of Champaign.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
I just want to say thanks. I know that this has been a lot of work parsing through all of this and trying to get us to a place where we're all comfortable. I think I'd be more supportive of B, but just for the purpose of public comment, I say let's put them both out for public comment. Give the little villages a chance to comment.
Thank you, Stephanie. Further discussion on this? Seeing none, All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Thank you. All opposed, please say nay. And I hear no nays. So it passed. Thank you. We will then move on to 9B, zoning case 973-AT-20. Part A, amend the Champaign County zoning ordinance to add definitions for the following types of adult use cannabis businesses: dispensing organization, infuser organization, processing. I'm getting echo and it's messing me up. Organization, transporting organization, craft grower and cultivation center. Part B, amend the Champaign County zoning ordinance to add requirements for adult cannabis businesses only within 1.5 miles of a home rule municipality with more than 20,000 population. And Part C, add requirements to authorize the following adult cannabis businesses except within 1.5 miles of non-home rule municipalities and except within 1.5 miles of a home rule municipality with a population of 20,000 or less, and except within 1.5 miles of a residential zoning district located more than 1.5 miles from a home rule municipality with more than 20,000 population. Is there a motion for this?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Thorsland, seconded by Mr. Goss. Discussion on this, if we haven't already largely answered questions, but
Now, my
go ahead,
only
Jim.
question is this, I mean, we're moving it forward for 30 days, but when we get to a vote, how does this work, John? Are we going to have to pick between these parts?
Well, I've been prepared for this to end up like the recent solar farm amendment, which was that on that one, I think both cases. How was it
Tied.
tied?
Yeah, because there were only 6 of us.
Yeah. So neither one was defeated and it moved ahead with no recommendation. In that instance, I honestly don't know what to expect here.
Well, my point is though, we've got to do it. So it looks like we pick in 973 because it's the one that confuses me. So are there essentially 3 votes, one for part A, one for part B, and one for part C? Or are there a combination there? Or I'm confused at how that wording. So part A is anywhere, correct?
Part A
B-
is just the definitions.
Okay, so part B is only within a mile and a half, basically, of Champaign-Urbana.
Right. And part B actually relates only to dispensaries, processors, and infusers.
Okay. And then
Well, I mean, actually, because part C adds cultivation center, craft grower, and transporters throughout all of our zoning jurisdiction. It doesn't just limit it to within a mile and a half of Champaign and Urbana. But the things authorized in part B are only limited to within a mile and a half of Champaign and Urbana.
okay, I apologize. I couldn't remember how this all shook out, and I've read it a couple of times, and I've got some notes on it, and my notes are even confusing. So thank you.
Now, John, just on part B, later and approve cannabis in their village, then it would allow the part B, our zoning would then automatically allow it within the 1.5 mile of the, or
Our ordinance
we would have,
should,
okay, I was just
Yeah.
curious on that. Thanks.
and I admit that's not the best way to proceed, but it's a lot easier this way. And
Okay.
should Rantoul or any other village change their rules, then our ordinance would have to be revisited.
Okay, didn't mean to necessarily make it even more complicated, but that was just thought that crossed my mind. Further discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yeah. Okay. All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Ms. Eisenman. Okay. It passed, not unanimously. Thank you. We are now then to section 10, new business, items to be recommended to the county board. We have A, the annual facility inspection report for the period 4/1/19 through 3/31/2020 for the Champaign County's National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, NPDES, Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, MS4 Stormwater Discharge Permit with the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. Is there a motion to recommend this to the county board? Moved by
So
Ms.
moved.
Furtado, seconded by Mr. Thorsland. Discussion on this, or John, do you want to say anything? We've seen this before. I think most of us have, except maybe Ms. Dillard Myers. But yeah, if you want to go ahead, John.
Yeah, this is just.
He's on mute.
Sorry. So this is just a report on the past year's activities, and these reports have to be to EPA by June 1 of each year. So hopefully we can get this to the EPA by June 1.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Jody. I was listening to him in the room and wasn't paying attention that I wasn't hearing him through the headphone. So discussion on this, any questions? We've seen this now for several years in a row for those of us who've been here for a little bit of time. Seeing no discussion and hearing no discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. All opposed, nay. Okay, hearing no nays and all ayes, I'm gonna say that passed unanimously. Thank you. We are on to B, adjustment of financial assurance for the California Ridge Wind Farm, Champaign County Special Use Permit 696-S-11. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Thorsland, seconded by Mr. Patterson. Thank you. Discussion on this, or John, do you want to fill us in just a little bit again, maybe on this?
Okay, this is confusing. This is the second adjustment for the financial assurance for the wind farm. And just as happened the last time, the cost of deconstruction has gone up and the salvage value of the materials have gone down. And so you may have noticed that the total financial assurance value is over $5 million at this point. And back when the wind farm was first approved, the total value was like 1.9 million. So everybody knows that Champaign County has serious financial assurance requirements for wind farms. And while I was doing this update, I realized somehow I overlooked that there were not deposits made in March of 2019 and March of 2020. Um, I get a monthly report of this escrow account, but somehow I forgot about those during those months. So I've updated my log so that from now on, when there's an update due, I've got a note there to look for it. I've made the wind farm owner aware that, we need about $900,000 added to make up for those two deposits. Haven't gotten it yet, but I don't foresee any problem with that. If we don't get it, it'll be an enforcement issue, but I think it's just a matter of my contact at the wind farm going through his channels. I have made the wind farm developer aware of all these costs, and so I don't foresee any problem. And the wind farm owner asked me why he just realized that they have no financial assurance for the 100 turbines in Vermilion County, and yet Champaign County is getting all of this for the 30. He agrees with Champaign County that's the better way to go. I'm assuming he also is thankful that Vermilion County doesn't have the same kind of requirements. But anyhow, I've made the wind farm owner aware of this, and I think they're just waiting to get the approval from the county board.
Okay, thank you, John. Discussion on this. Go
John,
ahead, Stephanie.
we approved this in 2011, is that correct?
The original approval, yes.
So we're about a third of the way through it? Through the original approval time?
The wind farm is projected to have a lifetime of 25 years, so we're actually not quite halfway through.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, okay.
And in a couple of years, this renewal will go down to once every 2 years. Will happen more often.
Right.
So John, let me ask a question because I wasn't obviously on the board at that point. I know most of these operators, I mean, they've got 25, 35-year leases with extensions for maybe up to another 2 times for a total of 50 years. So I assume we keep this on the books until they decommission it.
That's right.
Is that correct?
That's right. And as long as they keep turbines out there, they're going to have financial assurance in place.
Do we get reporting from them on the energy generation from the 30 units in Champaign County?
That is not a requirement. I had meant to ask about that because I had some inquiries from the public. I don't even know. I assume they have a number. I could see if I could get that and report that to the committee. They do have to report their annual maintenance, and they've provided the maintenance report, but they don't have to report on the energy production. But I can certainly make that request.
Yeah, I know. I've got farms that are in the Paxton one where their production leases. So I know they have that information readily available. It's all computer operated these days. So, they know within really reasonable certainty what the amount is. Obviously they're getting paid for it. So I'm just curious. Thank you.
Further discussion. Seeing none, hearing no other. Okay, ready to vote? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, all opposed, please say nay. Okay, I'm going to say that passed unanimously. We'll then move on to C. Acceptance of a deed for property with a dangerous structure at 202 3rd Street, Foosland. Note, related to budget amendment on the cow agenda. Is there such a motion? Moved by Ms. Furtado, seconded by Mr. Thorsland. Discussion. John, is there anything else you want to say that we haven't already covered thus far?
No, I think, we added the new condition that would make sure that the demolition would not move ahead if we don't get an extension on the grant. And at that point, I assume we would board up the structure just to make it more safe. But that's all I have.
Okay, there would be the probably Dana's guys going up there to mow it a couple times a year, unless the neighbors would by chance mow it for us or something, but not saying we could count on that, correct?
That's correct. We would have a yard to mow in Foosland, and we could see if we could find someone to do that on a contract. It seems a little much to ask Dana's crew to drive up to Foosland, and I think we could probably make some sort of an arrangement to get it mowed locally.
I would hope so, but I guess we'd have to see if we decide to accept this deed. Okay. Discussion on this. Questions, Mr. Goss?
Yeah, just the same question about, I'd like to see an environmental, make sure we have no environmental issues before we accept the property.
Does that go beyond simply the concerns about a possible fuel oil tank?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
We can certainly do that.
And obviously we will, if we pass this out of Eluc, we'll see this at the county board meeting. So we have a chance to change our minds if something comes up.
And we may know by then about the grant extension. It'd be great if we did.
Definitely, it would be nice. Anything else on this before we vote? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, I'll say that passed unanimously, and as I believe we all know, of course, we can keep anything off the consent agenda, or any one person could pull it off at the actual board meeting.
Yeah, Aaron, could we just keep this one off so we
Keep this one
verify,
off. That's
those
fine.
couple of things?
We'll keep that one off the consent agenda. Okay, move on to 10D, zoning case 947-AT-19. Amend the Champaign County zoning ordinance by amending the requirements for photovoltaic solar farms by deleting section 6.1.5B2B that requires a 0.5 mile separation between a proposed PV solar farm and the CR Conservation Recreation Zoning District. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Thorsland. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Patterson. Thank you. John, do you want to fill us in on this? We've seen this before, of course.
Yeah, this was reviewed at the February meeting. We didn't get any comments on this at the public hearing at the ZBA. So I think it's a good change. I ultimately decided that this separation didn't really make any sense. And so hopefully we can remove it from the ordinance.
Okay, thank you, John. Discussion from committee members. questions? We have seen this few times before. Okay, ready to vote. Looks like all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Nay,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, we have a couple nays. I'm going to say it passed, but not unanimously. Okay, we are then on to E, zoning case 971-AT-19, amend the Champaign County zoning ordinance by amending the requirements for a photovoltaic solar farm by amending the requirements for a letter of credit in section 6.1.5 Q 4E to change the minimum acceptable long-term corporate debt credit rating of the proposed financial institution to a rating of A- by Standard & Poor's, or a rating of A3 by Moody's, or a rating of A- by Kroll Bond Rating Agency. Is there such a motion? Moved by Mr. Goss. Seconded by Mr. Thorsland. Thank you. Discussion on this, or John, do you want to speak on this again first for a minute or two? We have seen this before.
Yeah, you have seen this before. The effect of this amendment would mean that at least one local bank would be eligible to provide financial assurance for a solar farm. There may be more than one. I don't know. I've only checked on one. And the overall change in risk is pretty small. It's hard to actually say how much, but it is measurable. I can't actually explain the difference that well. But it is measurable, but there's a significant benefit to local financial institution if they want to participate. Don't know if they will. But anyhow.
Thank you, John. Discussion on this. Seeing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay. Okay, heard no nays, so I'm going to say that passed unanimously. Thank you. We are then on to part 11, other business. We have A, the monthly reports. We have November 2019 and December 2019. John, did you have anything you wanted to point out about either of these?
Just to point out that, we had 47 zoning cases last year at the zoning board, which averages out to about 4 per month. So far, in May of 2020, we've had 0 zoning cases.
Wow.
So the economy has really taken a hit.
Thank you for that information. Not sure it's great to hear. Stephanie, go ahead.
I do want to bring up, I want to make a comment to myself and to Jim. The solar, because we just were talking about solar farms. That big, 150 megawatt solar farm is still out there. And in like negotiations around like tax breaks and all of that kind of thing. In the budget projections that Tammy gave us, what's on the table is $737,000 in recurring property taxes. Obviously, all of that doesn't come to us. It's for 9 jurisdictions. But all of those jurisdictions are going to be hurt by the current economic conditions. And there's $193,000 in a possible zoning permit fee that would go to the county that is not budgeted revenue. So that would go a long way in helping, sort of the financial situation that we find ourselves in. So I guess what I'm saying is I would like Eluc, since, we've been passing these solar ordinances in part in order to help generate revenue, right? So I would like the Eluc committee to kindly ask the finance committee, which is me and Jim, to check and see how that's going. And because that seems like that's just sort of stalled. And, there was a lot of over, the holidays, a lot of conversation about it, and it's just fallen off the radar. And that's a lot of revenue to just leave hanging out there for our county. So I just, on behalf of the Eluc committee, I want to ask us to remember to find out what's going on with that.
I can update that a little bit from what I know. The Douglas County and then the solar farm developer really drug their feet.
Yeah.
Last I knew that they were supposed to meet with or have a Zoom or something with somebody at IDOR early this month. So the thought would be that they would be coming to us in the next 30 to 60 days to move that portion forward. So that's been 3-4 weeks ago, probably, since I talked to Tammy Ogden about that. So it is still there. I mean, part of it is they've really drug their feet on getting anything done. And they still don't know the gravity of what the sales tax thing is.
Right. Okay, I just wanted to check in with it since we were talking about solar farms. I know it's more an issue of finance, but I just wanted to make sure we have it on the radar screen.
No, that's fine. Thanks, Stephanie, and thank you, Jim. If there's no further discussion on the monthly reports, we will receive those and place them on file. And chair's report, I have nothing for that. We'll then on to 13, designation of items to be placed on the consent agenda. I have 10A, B, and E. C passed unanimously, but we're going to keep it off the consent agenda at the request of Mr. Goss, and I agree with that. That works for me. So with that, if there's nobody else has any any last minute, I will call this meeting adjourned. The computer shows 7:29 in the lower right-hand corner that I'm looking at. Thank you all.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Thanks.
Good night. Thanks all.
Thanks.
Again.
Right.